So as we get ready for August 1st, which will be the start of the Play In Round series teams and the qualifying teams, the top four teams in each conference, we're going to be taking a look at the possible schedule. I talked about it in my most recent video talking about with the hub cities and stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be seeing 6 NHL games per day at different times. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos like this, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at the possibility of 6 NHL games per day moving into August. So to most hockey fans out there, I think it's pretty sacrilegious just the thought of playoff hockey being this late into the year. But here we are, and it looks like we're going to see August hockey at different times. Now we've got Edmonton and Toronto as the NHL hub cities this year, and just looking at what we have here is pretty amazing. Now this is an NBC Sports article, and they're talking about how the NHL has plans to have games at different time slots in each hub city. So you're going to have 3 games in Toronto each day and 3 games in Edmonton each day. Now because of the time difference between the two, it's a 2-hour time difference, so you could get a 12 o'clock game Eastern in Toronto, and then you have a 4 o'clock game Eastern on the East Coast, and then an 8 o'clock game. So it's a little bit more staggered, but that's 3 games in Toronto per day. And now remember, with the way the timing works in Edmonton, it's, I believe, a 2-hour, is it a 2 or 3 hour difference? I'm not totally sure. But let's say 9 o'clock Eastern, or 9 o'clock Pacific, people in Edmonton and on the West Coast can watch an East Coast game at noon in Toronto, and then they could watch their own 12 o'clock game, and then the 4 o'clock Eastern game, and they kind of go back and forth. I think this is a very interesting format here by the NHL, and I think, honestly, this is a good sign of things to come. I think this will help. You know, the question is how many people are going to watch all the games throughout the day, because you look at baseball, a lot of their games are in the middle of the day. They're not usually in the afternoon when people come home from work, so their TV ratings are a little bit different in terms of that, but they have games every day, right? So it's a little bit odd. Obviously, there's no fans, so they don't have to worry about filling the arena in the middle of the day with 3 different groups of fans coming in. They don't have to worry about any of that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works. I wasn't really totally sure what they were going to do, but this seems like a more than capable format. I mean, this is here by, reported by Bob McKenzie. Teams likely to be playing 2 games every 3 days to start. No travel days, obviously, but that may not always hold true. Preliminary best-of-5 round likely to be done in 9 or 10 days. Regular playoffs in the best-of-7 series still closer to 2 weeks, like normal. So, again, it just continues to show that the NHL is probably going to push the round-robin series a little bit quicker than the rest of the regular quote-unquote playoffs. And I think this is the NHL's way of validating this year's Stanley Cup, because the round-robin is basically teams just trying to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. And once you get into the regular Stanley Cup playoffs, it's like any other year. They aren't qualifying this as playoffs. So once you've got the top 16 teams in the Eastern and the Western Conference, then you figure out from there what you're going to have. And I think, that's just what you're going to have. You're going to have the 16 teams, and it's like any other regular playoffs. It's going to go into October, and the only difference that we're really going to have is when the Stanley Cup is awarded. Now, obviously, there's other factors as well. Our team's going to have different players. Some players aren't going to go to to these hub cities and play. Just an example. Let's talk about just the Vancouver Canucks. Let's just say Chris Tanev, doesn't want to play in the play-in round, and they lose to the Minnesota Wild, who have all their players. Well, then the Vancouver Canucks can say, well, the Minnesota Wild had an easier ride to the playoffs because we didn't have Chris Tanev. Just using that as just a basic example. But chances are, from multiple teams, we're going to see players maybe opt out because they have either young kids at home or whatever the case may be. Some players may be exempt, and I may talk about that in a video. Guys like Max Domi and Capo Caco, due to having underlying health conditions, I believe it's diabetes, that may limit them from being eligible to play in the playoffs, which some people may use that as an excuse. The Carolina Hurricanes may use that, they may, it may be an advantage over the Rangers, or the Penguins have an advantage over the Habs because they don't have a guy like Max Domi. So, again, I feel like people are always going to look for excuses, but this is their way of not tarnishing the validity of winning the Stanley Cup this year. As difficult as that is going to be, that's what it looks like. So what do you think of 6 NHL games per day in the middle of the summer? It's going to be quite different than the usual, but I think the entire year of 2020 has been that way. So leave in the comment section down below, what do you think of this format of seeing games scattered throughout the day? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.